Hey, YouTube, this video is very complicated, and I really wish that I even understand it. This is the main test to this Mujannah variation of the old Benoni, and I hope it's no baloney. So, this is the proper position here after 9 moves. After 8 moves, this is the proper position here. And then on move 9, the most common would be people just put a rook on e1. Most people do that. Then we put rook on here, on the B vertical. And then these are the poison pawn ones. When the knight jumps in, they try to capture a7. And then we move our knight to c7, attacking their knight. The point being is that we're going to strand their knight on a7, and that's going to be a pain in the neck for them. So here, and just go over the simple fray before the main test is we sacrifice the pawn, yeah, and then we have this move takes, and after they take here, then we have rook b8. So we've taken a step back to b8, but understand they can't play b5. They c1 d2, just letting it go is good too, or just making some other progress. Just let the knight go. They gotta let it go anyway because we take, and they can't take because vertical A is pinned. So then they jump in, and then we take another step back. It's kind of just like taking steps back, but at the simple depth, we do have an advantage here because our queen side play is pretty strong. And in the cards for us in this position is queen c8, queen e8, and stuff like that. But I mean, it's an advantage. I don't want to go into it too much because that's not the main good move that someone would play after we try to strand them on a7, and we're covering the b5 square up just as hard as we can so we can win the pawn back. Let's say they jump in here, then we go here, and if they go to jump into e6, then we take knight captures knight, pawn captures, and then bishop captures. And once c4 is targeted, black has a good advantage there. So for them, they're going to want to just play h3, and then we jump in knight to e4. So we got a big knight in the center. Yeah. And then so on move 14, say they just try to get the f4 post, then it's not as good because we can play here, and if they just move to h5, then we got bishop e5, which is good. And if they play e3, then we can jump back to h8. But if they jump in, then we take with the knight there, and we have play against the c pawn. And at this position, we got play against their pawn, and say they don't want to strand the knight because we're going to a8. Now we have bishop takes c4, which is what I've been talking about, and here we got 1.11 advantage, which is good. So that's the main variation of the poison pawn, and the other variation of the poison pawn, when after 8 moves, instead of playing this rook e1 move, which most people will play, there's either bishop f4, bishop g5, rook here, knight here, bishop d7. So we have this one rook and a bishop move after, and then say they take, then the third sequential gesture here is bishop e4, and say they move queen b3 is the best. Any other move, we're moving our queen here, and we're attacking the knight, and we're going to collect their c pawn from them after the knight moves to b5. So we're going to collect our c pawn from them after the knight moves to b5 because we've guarded up the square with our bishop and a queen. So say they move a5, a4, then we can just snap at b2. Haha. So the only way that that they can effectually guard it without letting us, as well as without letting us go, because if they move our rook b1, then queen a5 punishes them, attacking the a pawn, and also eventually knight b4 after a4. Well, actually, even a4 is not good. So rook b1 gets embarrassed by queen a5, and then that's good. So they got to move queen b3 to maintain any shred of dignity. But now, once you see this, this queen a5 move is pretty good. And then here is a bifurcation of paths. Say they take here, then we have this, which really gets them. Say they move to h4, then we have knight c7, and the b4 square is very guarded up, and we're going to eat the pawns. And say they move here, then we could take, and then after knight takes, then we have this c7 again, and you can see that this knight's attacked, so they have to move it here, and then we just crush them. We can take this pawn, or we can take another move out of it. So this is a little bit better. That's an easy way to embarrass these ones. Playing queen b3 is a good move. Yes, it's a good move. Queen b3, and then we put our queen here, and they don't want to take there with the bishop. Most likely, they want to move back right away, so we don't have that extra guard on b5. And that's also what the computer recommends as the only chance for advantage for white. And then we have to take here, and then c takes. That's a little bit dubious because we have some play, so to speak, here with c4, and you'll see our advantages going up and up and up. Ergo, instead of the c takes b5 after the knight retreats here, then we our most compromising queen takes, and then we must exchange. And after that one exchange, then we get that lovely c7 square, and a nice, lovely fork after that, which is good, boys and girls. We like to get the pawn back. And now you see the analysis is flipped in our favor, as the b pawn must be defended, and also these pawns are floating. So we sacrifice one, but we're attacking three, and they're attacking one. And just to clarify, this is not a good move because we get the e file, and they're down here. Say they go back, we get the b pawn. And say they don't go back and push their b pawn, then we have a a8 square for the knight, which is a good thing. Finally, they'll be able to retreat here or here. Here they just get trapped, so we don't want that. So they retreat here, and then a collection will be made on b6 eventually, but we can exchange first. And after that, we can take here, and the collection on b6 is going to come. So instead of taking here with the bishop, which I just elucidated is not the best move, The b pawn must be defended, and they can do this like this. 16, bishop c1, the retreat, and then we choose to collect the pawn, or rook a8, which attacks their a pawn, um, and also just gives us rook open file, and it's a whole dramatic play as we get the pawns back and everything. Or also we can just take, but the computer likes rook a8 a little bit better, because we give them a chance to make a commitment here, because we're going to get the b pawn no matter what. They can't play here because then we just take, and now we have even more targets on vertical A. And another beautiful thing about this is that they're almost run out of moves, so like, what are they actually going to play? A3, then we can delay this even more and push onward. And even if they play this, we're going to start going for the d pawn finally. So it's a game that we're allowing them to make a move, yet we know we're going to collect their pawn. So we move the rook back, and eventually we're going to make the pawn. So even if they do here, then we're going to go here. See, and it's a dramatic type of thing going on here. But when all the gunfire clears, you see that we're up a lot of material here, and even a stockfish, which is a high engine, you have this old thing going here. So I might sound nuts for that, but pause the video and look at the stockfish analysis. We got advantage here, and even the e-pawn's under threat right now. So we sacrifice a pawn, but then we attack like their whole thing, and the subtle bishop on g7 becomes a powerful force. So if you go back to the proper position, and I just went over bishop g5 poison pawn, bishop f5 poison pawn, rook here, bishop d7 takes. They don't have to take, so say this here, and then they play a4. Then we have a type of attack going on, which is a whole other thing really to analyze, but they haven't gone for the attack. Ergo, we have a couple of moves to attack their pawns and such, and it's good for us. We can do this little one right here when we're attacking their b pawn. So if they don't have the balls to let the b pawn drop and just go back, then we have this type of play here, which is pretty good. And when they take, then we go back to a8, and they are experiencing this pin on the a pawn, which we gather up quite easily. And here's the one when they actually take here on move 11. I know you might have to watch this a few times or write down the moves. It's really just a crazy thing. So when they actually take, we have a couple moves. We could play b6 with the queen. We could play knight b4, and you can also play knight to e4, attacking their pawn. And when we attack their pawn like that, that's a whole other thing to play. But the computer is going over a lot of moves here, and I really wish that some of this was fleshed out a little bit more too, but really after a lot of analysis, I came to this move, and this is a good move because b2 is attacked. But in the end, this move really starts getting good because you have a certain attack, and we need to go back to like f6 here, and it starts getting good for them. So instead of e4 there with the knight, which looks tempting, after even like more analysis, you see that queen b6 isn't even all that good either. We want to allow them to make a little move on their own, like say they play here and then they play here, then we play e4, and this pawn's attacked, and they can't defend it with the rook, so they gotta play here, and then if they make a mistake like this, then we can just slap that move down, and say defend it with the queen here, then we have a5 b4, and that's really good for them. So b3, a5 b4, it's that just gets punished right away, so the computer gets confused with that move. So queen b3 is good. Queen a5, not that good. I mean, queen a5, a4, and then one way to kind of just play this way is knight here, and then queen b3 is good, though I don't know why the computer just switches. I know it might seem crazy, but if you look at the analysis, it's negative 39, and then once the move is played, you got 74, a7 b5, and it's just terrible. So it's not bad. It's not that good to jump in right like that. And the queen move, it's not as good even that. What we're really looking to do here is after that, and they take, then we want to move queen b6 here. I don't know why that's just seen as a terrible move. If you really look, like, you have this, so that's the hardest one, is this bishop f4. See, that's to our advantage, though, when they just take the pawn and we play queen b6. So if we're on move 7 and they take the pawn, then we got queen b6. Why is that? Sorry, move 11, take the pawn, and then queen b6. Then the analysis just switched. This is confusing the computer. It takes. Oh, because they want to play this. So yeah, this is really an ugly variation. So let me do part 2 on this.